datang di Perpustakaan Universitas Islam Malang. Perpustakaan Unisma didirikan pada tanggal 27 Maret 1981 bersamaan dengan berdirinya Universitas Islam Malang. Baru saja direnovasi, memiliki 4 lantai dengan luas 3.414 meter persegi. Perpustakaan Universitas Islam Malang telah menerapkan protokol kesehatan yang ketat untuk menanggulangi penyebaran virus COVID-19. Perpustakaan Universitas Islam Malang tidak hanya menyuguhkan bacaan yang menarik, melainkan juga memiliki desain interior yang sangat unik dan homey. Seluruh lantai dilengkapi dengan desain interior yang berbeda-beda. Di lantai 1 tersedia berbagai macam corner, ruang literasi, cafe library, fotokopi, serta pusat kajian ke-NU-an dan kitab dengan koleksi yang tersedia. Begitu pula dengan ruang literasi, siap mengakomodir berbagai literasi sivitas akademika Universitas Islam Malang. Di lantai 2, pemustaka bisa menikmati koleksi umum, koleksi referensi, dan koleksi tugas akhir. Mahasiswa Unisma sangat menikmati koleksi yang tersedia, karena telah disediakan ruang baca yang representatif, baik lesehan yang unik, dan ruang baca outdoor. Di lantai 3, sudah tersedia ruang diskusi untuk mempertajam keilmuan pemustaka sesuai dengan disiplin ilmu yang dipelajari. Ruang baca lesehan dan meja baca bundar juga tersedia di lantai 3. Rooftop di lantai 4, Perpustakaan Universitas Islam Malang juga dapat menjadi tempat diskusi outdoor yang bersebelahan dengan Taman Anggrek Unisma. Taman Anggrek ini adalah tempat budidaya dan laboratorium kultur jaringan. Mari tingkatkan literasi guna menciptakan generasi literat melalui Perpustakaan Universitas Islam Malang. Selamat datang di Universitas Islam Malang, kampus unggul dengan sistem perkuliahan yang menyenangkan, disertai internalisasi nilai-nilai Islam Ahlus Sunnah wal Jamaah, dan telah mengimplementasikan Merdeka Belajar Kampus Merdeka dengan muatan distingsi di setiap program studi. Unisma memiliki 10 fakultas dengan berbagai pilihan program studi yang telah terakreditasi. 10 program studi telah terakreditasi.
Bapak Ibu yang kami hormati, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our international webinar. We are about to start our international webinar today, and we are still waiting for the presenters from My America Jakarta. And joining with us already, Mr. Joshua Tokar, Relo Fellow, U.S. Embassy Jakarta at University of Islam Malang. And also joining with us, Professor Junaidi Mistar, Vice Rector for Academic Affairs of University of Islam Malang. So while waiting for the other speaker, we would like to ask all the participants to kindly turn on the video for documentation purposes. And Ibu Dian. So we are still waiting for Ibu Octaviana Sinaga.
Yes, Mbak Okti may be a bit late, Pak Imam. We can start because she also has another commitment until around 1:30 or so.
Oh, okay.
So okay. But she'll be here to present.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And also, we are still waiting for the rector of University of Islam Malang. Bapak Ibu, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and a very good afternoon to all of us. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Wa bihi nasta'in ala umuri dunya waddin. Wassalatu wassalamu ala ashrafil mursalin. Sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa ashabihi ajma'in. Rabbi israh li sadri wa yassir li amri wa hlul 'uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli, amma ba'd. Respectable Professor Dr. Mashkuri, MSc, Rector of University of Islam Malang, and the Chairman of Forum of Nahdlatul Ulama Higher Education Rectors in Indonesia, respectable Mr. Nicholas Geisinger, Public Diplomacy Officer, U.S. Embassy Jakarta, Indonesia, respectable our keynote speakers, Mr. Joshua Tokar, Virtual English Language Fellow at University of Islam Malang, Regional English Language Office, U.S. Embassy Jakarta, Indonesia. And our keynote speaker, Ibu Octaviana Sinaga, the Director of My America Jakarta, U.S. Embassy Jakarta, Indonesia. Respectable Vice Rectors from Nahdlatul Ulama Higher Education, faculty members, directors, dean, director of the graduate schools, students, and all participants. Alhamdulillah, we thanks to Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, so that this afternoon on Wednesday, 12th January 2022, we can gather together to attend the international webinar with the title E-Library Resources for Academic Writing, Research and Publication in Digital Era. This webinar, hosted by University of Islam Malang in collaboration with Regional English Language Office, U.S. Embassy Jakarta, and Forum of Nahdlatul Ulama Higher Education Rectors in Indonesia. Salawat and salam always be delivered to our Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, who has guided us to the teaching of Islam. Bapak Ibu, ladies and gentlemen, to start our agenda this afternoon, let's recite Surat Al-Fatihah together. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alamin. Ar-Rahmanirrahim. Maliki yawmiddin. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. Ihdinas siratal mustaqim. Siratal ladzina an'amta 'alaihim ghairil maghdubi 'alaihim waladdallin. Amin. Bapak Ibu, ladies and gentlemen, our next agenda is singing Indonesian national anthem and March Subhanul Watan. Ladies and gentlemen, please kindly be seated in your position and let's sing Indonesian national anthem and March Subhanul Watan together. Thank you very much. Bapak Ibu, ladies and gentlemen, our next agenda will be the recitation of Salawat Nuril Anwar together. Let's recite Salawat Nuril Anwar together. Allahumma salli ala nuril anwar wasirril asrari wa tiryaqil aghyar wa miftahi babil yasari sayyidina wa maulana Muhammadin al-Mukhtar wa alihi al-athhari wa ashabihi al-akhyar adada ni'amillahi wa ifdali عدد نعم الله وإفضاله. Thank you very much. Bapak Ibu, ladies and gentlemen, our next agenda will be some speeches. The first speech remark will be delivered by Mr. Nicholas Kessinger, Public Diplomacy Officer, U.S. Embassy, Jakarta, Indonesia.
Good afternoon, everyone, and greetings from the Public Affairs section of the U.S. Embassy in Jakarta. My name is Nicholas Geisinger, and it's my privilege to speak to you all today and to help kick off this webinar supporting English language excellence. The U.S. mission to Indonesia supports quality English teaching, research, and scholarly publications through our English language programs and our American Spaces programs. And we can only do this successfully with the support of good friends here in Indonesia. So my sincere thanks to Universitas Islam Malang, UNISMA, for our strong ongoing partnership. Last year, the Embassy funded the establishment of academic writing centers at Indonesian higher education institutions to help people improve their writing in English. And today's webinar on research and writing during the digital era continues that effort. As education professionals or diplomacy professionals, we've all gotten a lot more used to long-distance collaboration in recent years, but I still find it cool that your virtual English language fellow is in Ukraine. Joshua Tokar, welcome, and thank you for the insights you'll share today. Thanks as well to Embassy Jakarta's own Okti Sinaga, Director of My America Jakarta, who we'll hear from later on as well. It's always an honor and a pleasure to collaborate with the Nahdlatul Ulama Network, and I would like to specifically thank UNISMA Rector Professor Maskuri, the chairman of NU Higher Education Rector Forum and deputy of the Indonesia Higher Education Rector Forum, for your collaboration with U.S. Embassy Jakarta and your support of the Virtual English Language Fellow Program. Our gratitude and appreciation also to Dr. Imam Wahyudi Karimullah, Head of International Affairs, Coordinator of the Fellow Program at UNISMA, and also an alumnus of Michigan State University. Dr. Karimullah, thank you for supporting the Fellow Program and for planning this webinar. To all of you joining us today from NU universities throughout Indonesia, thank you for your time and thank you for your interest. And please keep in touch with the U.S. Embassy via social media. Our handle on all platforms is U.S. Embassy JKT. So, terima kasih semuanya. Please do enjoy today's program. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bapak Nicholas Geisinger, Public Diplomacy Officer from U.S. Embassy Jakarta, Indonesia, for your remark. Again, thank you very much. Bapak, Ibu, ladies and gentlemen, our next agenda will be a speech from Professor Dr. Mashkuri MSc. He is the rector of University of Islam Malang, as well as the chairman of Forum of Nahdlatul Ulama Higher Education Rectors in Indonesia. For Professor Dr. Haji Mashkuri MSc, time is yours.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Good afternoon, respectable, distinguished keynote speakers of the international webinar on library resources for academic writing, research, and publication in digital era 2022. Mr. Nicholas Geisinger, Public Diplomacy Office, U.S. Embassy, Jakarta. Mr. Joshua M. Tokar, Virtual English Language Fellow from United States of America at University of Islam. Ibu Oktivianus Sinaga, Director of My America Jakarta, U.S. Embassy Jakarta. Respectable rectors or vice rector, directors, dean, administrator, and faculty member, especially from Nahdlatul Ulama Higher Education Institution. Respectable Ibu Dian Savitri, Cultural Affairs Specialist, Aurelio Assistant, U.S. Embassy Jakarta, the webinar committee, students, all participants, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of University of Islam Malang. I am very happy to welcome our keynote speakers from United States of America and Indonesia. Welcome to Unisma Malang. University of Islam Malang has been developing its national and international reputation through excellent services, achievement, and joint international programs. University of Islam Malang is from Nahdlatul Ulama for Indonesia and world civilization. Ladies and gentlemen, the freedom of campus and the freedom of learning program from the Ministry of Education and Culture of the Republic of Indonesia are important programs to produce more innovation and creativity in education, research, entrepreneurship, and community services. We at University of Islam Malang are transforming our institution from the milestone of teaching institution into research and entrepreneurial milestones. The integration of teaching, research, and entrepreneurship is an excellent foundation for us to be a world-class university. This international webinar is very important for us to discuss about library resources in digital era. The speaker will share very important information in how to find and manage sources for academic writing. In addition, we will have presentation on the introduction of a library USA as an academic and research resources. Therefore, I hope all participants can benefit from this webinar for our personal and professional development purposes. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of Unisma Malang, I would like to deliver my appreciation to the organizing committee from University of Islam Malang in collaboration with Regional English Language Office, U.S. Embassy Jakarta, and Forum of Nahdlatul Ulama Higher Education Rector, who have organized this international webinar 2022 successfully. Although we meet online, I believe it will not stop our innovation and creativity in using and exploring library resources for academic writing, research, and publication in this digital era. Ladies and gentlemen, by saying Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, I officially open this international webinar 2022 with the theme Library Resources for Academic Writing, Research, and Publication in Digital Era, organized by University of Islam Malang in collaboration with Regional English Language Office, U.S. Embassy Jakarta, and Forum of Nahdlatul Ulama Higher Education Rectors. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Please give a virtual round of applause for the opening of this international webinar. Bapak Ibu, ladies and gentlemen, our next agenda is the token of appreciation, the delivery of certificate of appreciation to our keynote speakers, Mr. Joshua Tokar and Mrs. Octaviana Sinaga, the director of My America Jakarta, U.S. Embassy Jakarta, Indonesia. Thank you very much. Bapak Ibu, ladies and gentlemen, that's the opening ceremony activities that we have done already. Now we are going to our next main activity, which is the presentation from our keynote presenters, keynote speakers. The first presenters will be Mr. Joshua Tokar. Mr. Joshua Tokar is our English language fellow from RELO, Regional English Language Office, U.S. Embassy Jakarta, Indonesia, which now he is the faculty member, our virtual faculty member at the University of Islam Malang. Mr. Joshua Tokar will present a topic on finding and managing relevant resources for academic writing. I would like to give time to Mr. Joshua Tokar to present your topic. Please give our round of applause to Mr. Joshua Tokar.
Okay, thank you so much for that very kind welcome and introduction. And what an honor and a privilege it is to be here with you today at this international webinar on academic writing, research, and resources. Thanks also to Professor Dr. Mashpuri and Pak Imam for your kind welcome as well. Also thanks to UNISMA and the Embassy in Jakarta for your organization and making this event possible. So thank you so much. Yeah, I'm going to be presenting today on finding and managing relevant sources for academic writing. But before I do that, just a little bit about myself. My name is Joshua Tokar. I'm a virtual English language fellow at the U.S. Embassy in Jakarta. And since January last year, I've been working with UNISMA, teaching courses to undergraduate and graduate students in the English language teaching program there. I've even noticed some of my students are here today, so welcome. I'm glad to see you as well. Since 2013, I've lived in Ukraine with my wife and 3 boys, which you can see on the screen right now. Right now, there's a lot of snow on the ground here, and it's quite cold. In fact, even when I was doing my preparations last night, you know, I took a picture of the temperature. It was minus 10 degrees Celsius, but that's nothing too extreme for someone like me. I actually come from Minnesota in the United States, and in Minnesota, just a few days ago, it was minus 30 degrees. So that's much colder back home where I'm from. Besides being a fellow, I teach and manage an EFL program at a Christian seminary in Kiev, Ukraine. And but like many of you, of course, this pandemic has changed what my classroom looks like now. That looks much more like this. But I'm grateful that we have the kind of technology that we have today, that we're able to put on events even like we have today, where we can gather together even if we can't be together physically. So that's a wonderful thing. Although hopefully the technology will cooperate with us. That's always sometimes can be a problem, but hopefully we won't have any problems today. All right, so let's go ahead and get into the presentation this afternoon. The presentation will be divided into 3 parts. The first part will be about formulating a topic sentence, and we'll be doing that with the purpose of using that topic sentence to find relevant resources. So we're going to be taking that topic sentence to find relevant sources. And finally, the last part will be looking at managing references and how we can some ways, an example of how we might be able to do that. Hopefully we'll have time at the end for some questions if you have any, and that will wrap up the presentation. Okay, so moving into part one, formulating a topic sentence. Now, this part of the presentation is adapted from material from this book you can see on your screen, The Craft of Research. And this is a really good resource. So if you need a book that might be able to help you walk through the process of putting research together, this is a good one. Or if you are looking for some materials for your students, this also could be a good one for you. Okay, obviously the first thing we need to do along the way to be able to write a topic sentence is to identify a topic, so that would be important. And so I'm just going to walk you through this process. It's not very long, but I'm just going to use my own example from research that I've done recently on motivation. Okay, so if I would just take my own example and identifying a topic, I would just write down, okay, motivation to learn English. Okay, so that was an interest of mine, motivation to learn English. So I can just put that down. But obviously we need to become a lot more specific than that if we want to, narrow that down and have more meaningful research. And so we can make it more specific here. So I'm actually was studying student motivation to learn English at a Ukrainian seminary. Okay, so now I have a context, I have the people that I'm researching, and it's much more specific. Okay, so once we have a more specific topic, we can move on to trying to form different questions. We can ask different questions about this topic that can help us to understand, like, what do we really want to find out? What do we want to know about this topic? Okay, so we can ask questions like these about the history of the topic. So what kind of history does that topic have? And if I look at my topic, I came up with a question like this: what were the motivations for teaching English when seminaries in Ukraine started in the early 1990s after the collapse of the Soviet Union? Okay, so I'm trying to think historically about my topic. We can also ask questions about how the topic might be categorized in different ways. So, what kinds of factors motivate students? Are they more instrumentive type factors? Are they more integrative type factors? Okay, so I'm starting to think about categories when I ask questions like this. Okay, you can also turn positive questions into negative questions, and this sometimes can help you to get at a different angle, with a different viewpoint at your topic. So here's just one way that I did that. What factors are no longer relevant to today's theological learning context? And what factors are not being addressed by the EFL program? Okay, so this has kind of helped me to see this from a different perspective now. We can also ask different kinds of what if questions or speculative questions about the topic as well. Here's just an example using my topic. Is there a way that the EFL curriculum could be modified to meet current needs as demonstrated by the motivating factors? Okay, so I'm just starting to think, what if, these factors are not matching our program? Can we do anything to change it? And we can also then ask questions that build on agreement and disagreement. And here's just an example of this. How can it be determined which motivators should have an influence on the curriculum? Obviously, curriculum at an institution has many stakeholders. So we have besides the students, we also have administrators, we have program directors. And okay, so how can it be determined how that curriculum should look like? And what factors that motivate students do not match the goals of the institution? Okay, so that might be more on the side of disagreement. Okay, that there may be things that don't quite fit with the goals of the institution. So once you've asked a number of questions and looked at your topic from different ways, you can begin to evaluate those questions. You can make a list of the best questions that you have. You can even combine some of the questions, putting them together and trying to come up with those key questions that you want to try to answer with your research. Okay, so I've done that now. I've come up with my topic, and by asking a number of different questions, I was able to come up with a key question, in my case, just one, sometimes you might have more, that I was trying to find an answer for in my research. So my topic was student motivation to learn English at a Ukrainian seminary. And my research question, does the curriculum at the seminary adequately meet the needs of its students? Okay, so I'm trying to find out this answer with my research. Okay, so once we have a topic and our question, we need to be able to answer the question, so what? Okay, what makes this research significant? That's really important. So this is also important to include in a topic sentence too. You know, what is the significance or the motivation that underlies this research? And so there's three main good steps to a very good topic sentence, and that is to, state the topic, to have an indirect question, which is essentially your research question or questions in an indirect form, and the motivation for your research. Okay, not sure why that didn't work correctly like that, but that's okay. So step one, name your topic. So that's the first part. There's different language we can use to do that. I'm trying to learn about, I am working on, I am studying. There's a number of ways we can state that, but using my example, I could just write something like this. I'm studying factors that motivate students to learn English at a seminary in Ukraine. Okay, I'm just stating the topic plainly. That's the first step. Then I need to add the indirect question from my research question. Okay, and so it'll look like this. I'm studying this topic because, and now I need my indirect question. So I'm studying factors that motivate students to learn English at a seminary in Ukraine because I want to find out whether the curriculum adequately meets the needs of its students. Okay, so now I've taken that research question, does the curriculum adequately meet the needs of the students? And I've just put it into an indirect form. Okay. And finally, we need to add that crucial step, the motivation. So what? Why should people care about this research? Why should people care about this article or whatever you are writing? Okay, and for that, we need to maybe add on this third step, and we can use language like this in order to help your audience, whoever your audience may be, understand. Maybe it's teachers, maybe it's students, maybe it's administrators, maybe it's just general audience, but to help them understand something. There's lots of other language you might use for that as well. You can also just simply say, so that, okay? And so just to continue in the same example we had, I'm studying factors that motivate students to learn English at a seminary in Ukraine because I want to find out whether the curriculum adequately meets the needs of its students so that informed program decisions can be made to meet these needs. Okay, so my motivation behind my research is that hopefully the results will help the program to change and become better. Okay, so that's the motivation that comes behind it. All right, so I've included all the three steps. Now I have those in my topic sentence, and that makes it a good topic sentence. All right. So having a topic sentence is really important because that can then help us, once we have narrowed down our research and we have a clear topic sentence, we can use that then to help us to find relevant sources. So that's part 2 here of this presentation, finding relevant sources. So now we're going to take that topic sentence that we just created, and we're going to try to identify terms that would be helpful to us then in finding sources. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and put that topic sentence back up on our screen again. And if we look through this topic sentence, we can begin to see different terms, different words that may help us in the process of finding some relevant sources that would help us in our research. So the first keyword that sticks out to me is motivate. Okay, I'm studying motivation, so motivate would be a key word I would want to use. Also, students, because this is the specific context I might have. Okay, I'm not talking about necessarily children, or I'm not talking about teachers or anything else. I'm talking about students. Okay, English is another key word because I'm studying about learning English, so motivation to learn English. So that'll be a key word for me. Another key word might be seminary. Okay, the more specific context where I'm doing the research. And so these are some key words. I'm just going to take these 4 for now. There may be other words in here that could also be helpful and useful, like Ukraine. Okay, so that might be a helpful one too, that I might want to use for searching. Maybe other words like curriculum and things like that. But for now, let's stick with these 4. Okay, so if we look at these 4 words, we're going to take a look at how we might be able to expand these words in order to help us to search and find sources that can be relevant to us. So if we take that first word we identified, motivate, if we take a look at this word, when we're trying to search for sources, it's helpful first if we do a little brainstorming exercise and begin to think, okay, what are some other ways we can express this same word, okay, that might help us to come up with some results in our search for sources. Okay, the first thing we could do is try to think of other forms of the same word. So we have motivate, but there are lots of other forms of motivate that come from the same word. So we have words like motive. Okay, we have motivation, as we talked about before. We have motivated as the past participle, or sometimes even as an adjective. We have motivating, also an adjective at times, or otherwise at times as an infinitive. We have motivator. Okay, so we have a number of different words we may be able to think of, different forms of the same type of word that may help us as we're searching if we use some of these different words as well, that might help us come up with those results. We can also try to think of other synonyms that the word might have, other words that have the same or similar meaning to motivate. So we might have words like enthusiasm, might have word like desire, drive, okay, incentive, okay, and reasons. Reasons isn't exactly a direct synonym, but it's definitely related. So by doing an exercise like this, we can begin to come up with a number of terms and key terms that we can use in our search to try to find and dig for some relevant sources. Okay, another one of our words was English, right? So this is one of the key parts of this particular topic sentence, English. And when we think of the word English, there's a number of terms related to English for English language learning and teaching. And we might want to just kind of think about those as well. And There's a lot of acronyms too related to this. So we have like ESL, English as a second language. We have EFL, English as a foreign language. We have ESOL, English to speakers of other languages. We have even EAL, English as an additional language. We have L2 is sometimes used in these research papers as well as second language. We could just spell out the words second language as well, or just spelling out the words foreign language. But there's a number of different key terms we can get from looking at one of these words and trying to think of the other terms that are related to it. Okay, another one of our key terms was seminary. Okay, there's more specific context. And if we think of seminary, it's a place where students go after they finish school. But even in English language, sometimes the word school is used for places that students go to after they finish school. So we might choose a word like school, college, okay, higher education. We're looking at different terms that might be related. Institution, university, okay, and we might just also look for other terms that are just related. Seminary has a more specific genre of a type of education, so that's related to theological type of education. We might also look at a word like religious if we're trying to find something more specific that's very related to the same context. Okay, so there's a number of words we can try to find that are related to our search term that might help us bring up some results that would be relevant. Okay, we could also look at our word student that we identified, and there's a number of terms we might be able to come up with as well related to students. And we might have a term like EL, English learner, ELL, English language learner. Okay, learner, we might just use the word learner in place of student. That might help us come up with a result. We might use like FLL for foreign language learner, because maybe there's some research done on motivation with other languages too that could be helpful to us. Okay, we might use pupil, although that's typically for younger students, not for students in college or university. And we might just spell out terms by writing second language learner for things like that. If we try some of these different ways of looking up terms, it can help us to maybe find something that didn't come up in the results before. So that's if we had student. Okay, there's a number of different terms that would be like synonyms of a student. Okay, but if we also think of maybe if we had a different context, if we were working with young learners in our research, okay, we could also think about just terms that are related. Not that they mean the same thing, that they're replaced by the term young learners, but just related terms. So if we were working with young learners, we might use words like elementary, because young learners go to elementary school. So if we look up the word elementary, we might come up with some results related to young learners. Okay, we could also use primary, which is used in some countries as well for elementary school. We could use tertiary as well as a term. We could use children or pupil. So we have a number of terms that we could use then also with that term. Okay, so once we've kind of done an exercise like this, we've got a number of words and key terms we can use to help us to find those sources. It's really helpful though to know how those search engines work, and how we can use some of the different search language to help us to find results. Okay, maybe many of you are familiar, but it's really helpful to know when you're searching for resources, the Boolean operators. Okay, and you can see those on your screen right here. Boolean operators help you to narrow and define your search in a way that will help you to find better sources. Okay, so you can see that we can use the term "and" in our searches. And what that will do, if we say something like, you can see for the example, we have travel and tourism. So if we say travel and tourism, what we will get in our results is just the results that have both travel and tourism in them. If we say travel or tourism, then we will get all the results, whether they're just only travel, or only tourism, or with travel and tourism together. If we say travel not tourism, if we're trying to exclude a certain type of result that we're getting, then we'll only get results that have travel, that don't have this tourism term in it. Okay. And we can also use these terms together to help even amongst multiple terms to try to control the results as well, as you can see down below, by using parentheses, by using both or and, we can control those results that we get and narrow those search results. Okay, so as you saw, we just saw there, parentheses are another helpful thing. So if you remember from your days in mathematics, that you could use parentheses in math operations to control. You do this thing first, and then the next thing, whatever's in the parentheses, has to be accomplished first. So here if we put ESL or EFL in parentheses, then we're going to get any results, whether ESL or EFL, but both of those have to be with the term motivation. So ESL or EFL and motivation. So we might get ESL and motivation, or EFL and motivation, or both, but it can be either of those. Okay, quotation marks are also very useful. If we put something in quotation marks, then we must have exactly that term. So if I put student motivation in quotation marks, then I will only get results, theoretically, that have the term student motivation together exactly how I wrote it. Very important to spell things correctly if you use quotation marks, though. And finally, there's asterisks. You might not be as familiar with this, using an asterisk, but you can use an asterisk to as a wild card, something like a wild card that can be anything. And so since we have a lot of terms that are similar in English language teaching, we can just put an asterisk and we can get anything that comes up here. So if I do E asterisk L and motivation, then I'm going to get anything that has an E and an L in the term. It doesn't matter what's in the middle there. So we could have ESL, EFL, ELL. Any of those terms then would potentially come up in my search if I use this asterisk. Okay, so these are some different ways that you can that will help you to narrow, to drill down, to dig in, to find those sources that can be helpful and relevant to your whatever kind of research projects you're having. Okay, we are then moving on to our final part of this presentation, which is going to be reference management. So once you've been searching for lots of different resources and you're getting a list of a lot of different things that are related to your research, one of the most difficult and daunting things of that is trying to keep that organized and not lose the many things that you are finding. And thanks to this digital age we're in, there are a lot of wonderful tools that can help you to do that, to manage those sources. So we're just going to take a look at one of them today, and I'm going to have to get off of this presentation to do that. Okay. first of all right, so there's a number of programs out there. So I don't know them all myself, and I don't have experience with all of them, but even if I went to Wikipedia about reference management software, you can find a whole list of different software. Some of it is still not valid today. It's not working anymore today. Some of them are, but even on here, you can see there's a whole list of different software available. Plus it tells you what they're compatible with and how they, what kind of, what systems they work on and things like that. So if you're interested and want to do more research, you can do that and find a reference manager that works best for you. One that I think works really well and doesn't cost anything to use essentially is Mendeley. It's a really good one. And you can register for free for an account on Mendeley. And once you've signed in, you're going to see a page like this. And so if, you may have found now a bunch of different resources, you have a whole list. And if you want to try to keep those organized, what you can do is just even try to type here for that resource. The nice thing about Mendeley is that there's just millions of resources already on Mendeley that are already entered into Mendeley. So if you can just search and find it, it will save you a lot of time and a lot of work. So if we just even looked at the source I mentioned at the beginning of my presentation, the craft of research, we can type that in here and see what we find. And I can see, yep, here's that author. I see that there's the title of that book, but I do notice here that this is a journal. So that's not exactly what I had in mind, because this is actually a book I'm looking for, but I could narrow that search down here by clicking on book to try to find that exact source that I had. And here it is now, The Craft of Research, and I had the 4th edition. So that's the correct one. That's the author. That's the exact source that I was using. So I would want to just kind of click here and I can add that to my library. All right, so once I've added that to my library, I can just check and see if that's really there, and I can look, yep, it's been added, and it's part of my list of a whole bunch of sources now I have here. Okay, but even if you are looking and you don't find the exact source that you have, it's quite easy just to add your resource. It takes a little of time, of course, always to do this, because you need to find the different information. But you can just click to add a new source, choose the type of source it is, and enter in the different information in these fields from your source. And although that takes time, it always takes time when you're trying to manage your sources. But once you've done it one time, you don't have to worry about it again. It will be in your system, in the list, and which will be very valuable to you. Okay. So one of the nice things about this too is that when you have your sources in here, Mendeley also has a feature for annotating. You can also actually add different files too. Maybe you have a PDF file of the source, or some other related files that you want to add, or you can add links. But you can also just generally add some notes regarding the source that you have that would help you to remember, why you chose this source, where the, relevant information was in the source. That will help you to remember those things. Maybe there's some specific quotes. There's also a notebook here that you can also add other notes to. And so all that will be connected to that exact source, and you won't have to forget, where did I read that information, or where did I see this quote? All that will be here, and then it's connected to the source that you found it in. Okay. One other great feature, I think, of Mendeley, what it can do is that it is integrated also on Microsoft Word. Okay, so it does have a plugin for Microsoft Word. And I'm just going to show you how that works. So if you loaded up a document on Microsoft Word here, And if you just go to the References tab at the top of Microsoft Word, once you've installed the plugin on Word, you can just click on Mendeley site right here. It'll be under the References tab, and that will open up a ribbon or sidebar here that will be connected to the library that you have on your online Mendeley site. So all those same sources, you can see even the one I just added, the Craft of Research, is right here. So all of those sources that are in that list are also here. And the nice thing about that is that, you know, when I'm beginning to write my paper, so if I just start to write some things, like let's say Dornier, he's a guy who is big with motivation in language learning. Okay, Mark Dornier argues that Gardner's integrative concept is no longer relevant. Okay, so I've written kind of an argument here. Then I just need to find the source where I found that information. So I'm going to find my source from Dornier that I read that information in, that I got that information from, and I can just click that then, and right there, and then it adds the information in the correct style. And right here on the ribbon, you can see the citation style. You can change that if you need a different type of citation style, but I'm using APA, which is most typically used for our field. Okay, now it doesn't always do it exactly right, because I've already used the name, the term Dornier, the name Dornier in my sentence. So we do not need to have the name in the reference, but you can easily just delete that, and then you have that in the correct format right there. Okay, and also nice is that we can, if we click on this More tab, once we finish writing our paper, we can just, you know, add a references section at the end of our paper or research paper. And okay, that should probably be in the center probably though, but, and we can just insert that bibliography right there. And then we have our source that we used as we wrote, and we don't have to try to go back through our paper, which can be very long, and try to find which sources we used and then try to look up all that information. I just can just add it, and it's automatically right there in the correct format. Okay, so let's just add one more sentence here. Let's just say, okay, other researchers have come to the same conclusion over the years. Okay, other researchers come to the same conclusion over the years. All right, I haven't mentioned what the names of those researchers are, but I do need to put down where I got that information, which sources. So I'm just clicking. I have a few different sources that said those had the same opinion as Dornier, let's say. And so I can just enter in those citations. I've clicked all those sources where I got that information from, and they're just automatically formatted for me. And notice I'm doing this larger, of course, than you would normally so that you can see it. But you'll notice then in the references table that they've been automatically already added. Okay, so those sources, once I enter those into my paper, they're automatically added into my reference list, and they're in alphabetical order too, which is nice. So that saves me a lot of time, a lot of work, and helps me to stay organized. Okay, one last thing I'll mention about that, about Mendeley, is it also is a nice way just to even come up with new sources. So you might be looking for the sources you've already found, but in the process of looking for those sources, you might come up with a lot of different things. So if I just even typed in EFL motivation, okay, I might see right away, even here, I see that, this is a journal and it's open access. So I can actually use Mendeley even just to look at this PDF of this source. And many of the sources on here are accessible even through Mendeley. Excuse me. And so I'm seeing a lot of different relevant sources, even here, the Indonesian EFL learners motivation in reading. Okay, so that might be a relevant source. So I would just be able to open up that PDF. Now, not all of them have the ability to get the text or to actually find that exact source, but you might be able to find that the source exists, at least on here. And once you find it, you might be able to try to find out where you can go to try to find that source. One of the places you might be able to go is eLibrary USA, which is why I'm glad that our next presenter, who I'm looking forward to hearing, will be sharing about how you might be able to find some of these different sources when you go to, when you can't find them in other places. So maybe eLibrary USA might be a great place for you to go to find some of those as well. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and stop right there. And now I think if we do have time, I don't know if we do, but I will just open it up if anyone might have any questions.
Thank you, Pak Joshua Tokar. Can we do it later, Pak Joshua, after the
Yep, no problem.
from Bu Oktiviani Sinaga, the director of My America Jakarta, because Ibu Oktiviana already with us. So I would like to invite Ibu. Thank you, Pak Jos. Let's give a round of applause for our Pak Joshua Tokar for a very excellent presentation. We will have a discussion, a question and answer session at the end of the second presentation from Ibu Oktiviana Sinaga. Ibu Oktiviana Sinaga will present a topic on the introduction to eLibrary USA for the context of academic and research resources. Ibu Oktiviana Sinaga is the director of My America Jakarta, U.S. Embassy Jakarta, Indonesia. Please join us in welcoming Ibu Oktiviana Sinaga with a round of applause.
Terima kasih Pak atas introduction-nya. Mohon maaf saya hanya bisa join di sesi terakhir ini. Sebagian ini kebetulan kami di kantor ada off-site meeting dan kami wajib hadir. Jadi tapi senang sekali ya masih sempat hadir dalam webinar Unisma ini. Sudah diperkenalkan tadi saya. Mohon maaf juga saya pakai masker di sini karena ada kebetulan ada kolega lain di ruangan ini, jadi kita jaga protokol kesehatan. Jadi saya, nama saya Oktiviana Sinaga, boleh dipanggil Okti, tanpa Ibu, dengan Kakak, dengan Mbak, terserah Bapak Ibu, semua memanggil saya seperti apa. Saya di sini mewakili Public Affairs Section US Embassy Jakarta, tepatnya dari My America Jakarta. Jadi My America Jakarta itu saya share ini ya, bentar saya share screen dulu di sini. Oke, sudah bisa lihat ya screen saya?
Bisa.
Ini saya bikin menu presentation. Jadi kalau kita berbicara tentang My America Jakarta, kita mengenal di Department of State, kita mengenal konsep American Species. Jadi kita kenalan dulu ya dengan American Species itu apa. Jadi American Species adalah fasilitas pusat informasi, research, dan program venue yang bertujuan memberikan informasi yang akurat, terbaru, dan terpercaya mengenai berbagai aspek budaya, masyarakat, dan nilai-nilai dan kebijakan dari pemerintah Amerika Serikat. Jadi di seluruh dunia itu ada sekitar 600-an American Species dan di Indonesia ada 12 American Species. Dan nanti di slide berikutnya akan kita lihat di mana-mana saja American Spaces, dan semua service, fasilitas dan programming yang ditawarkan oleh American Spaces terbuka untuk umum dan juga bisa diakses dengan gratis. Nah, berikut, jadi ini lokasi American Spaces. Ada 2 My America, satu berlokasi di US Embassy Jakarta, satu lagi di Konsulat Jenderal Surabaya, dan satu at Amerika di Pacific Mall Jakarta. Kemudian kita ada 9 American Corner. Di American Corner itu partnership, kerjasama partnership antara US Embassy dan US Konsulat Surabaya dengan 9 universitas di Indonesia. Kebetulan nih Unisma lokasinya di Malang, jadi yang terdekat adalah di UMM. Tapi di kota-kota lain dari Padang sampai Ambon, teman-teman yang datang dari kota-kota yang terdaftar di 9 lokasi ini juga punya akses ke American Corners. Nah, biasanya American Corners itu menawarkan ada physical service. Jadi kita ada library-nya, ada koleksi yang typical library, ada buku, ada majalah, ada koleksi film, koleksi musik, dan juga koleksi untuk makerspace seperti 3D printer. Di samping juga kita menyediakan koleksi berbentuk digital. Dan salah satu koleksi digital kami yang akan saya paparkan di sini adalah e-Library USA. E-Library USA ini link untuk akses ke e-Library USA saya highlight dalam presentasi saya di bawah ini. Kemudian, apa sih e-Library USA? Jadi e-Library USA itu adalah digital library yang terdiri atas 9 database, terbagi atas 4 golongan besar. Satu sumber-sumber informasi untuk news, berita dari surat kabar maupun dari majalah, kemudian ada academic research, kemudian ada sumber informasi untuk belajar bahasa Inggris, dan kemudian sumber informasi untuk film, terutama film dokumenter. Nah, koleksi yang ada di e-Library USA adalah koleksi yang biasa atau bisa diakses di banyak perpustakaan universitas, perpustakaan bisnis, dan perpustakaan umum di Amerika Serikat. Semua database-nya berbayar, tapi sebagai end user, Bapak Ibu nanti sebagai end user tidak harus membayar karena sudah dibayarkan oleh Departemen Luar Negeri Amerika Serikat, jadi bisa langsung akses. Karena berbayar, informasi yang terdapat di dalamnya bisa dibilang selalu termuktahir, terupdate, otoritatif berdasarkan dari sumber yang memang bisa dipercaya, dan untuk koleksi-koleksi yang berhubung dengan research atau akademik juga direview oleh para pakar. Jadi tingkat reliabilitasnya sangat bisa dipercaya. Sebagian besar memang kontennya dalam bahasa Inggris ya. Orang suka tanya kenapa? Karena memang sebagian besar karya-karya ilmiah ditulis dalam bahasa Inggris. Dan kedua, mungkin juga ada karya ilmiah yang dalam bahasa Indonesia tapi belum bisa lulus dalam review sumber informasi di e-Library USA. Jadi bahasa Inggris, sumber bahasa Inggris adalah sumber terbesar dalam koleksi e-Library USA. Nah, sebenarnya e-Library USA itu sebelum pandemi hanya bisa diakses di American Spaces di 12 tempat yang tadi sudah dipaparkan di depan. Jadi pengguna harus datang langsung ke Spaces itu, kemudian nanti oleh teman-teman di masing-masing Spaces akan dibantu untuk akses database. Tapi selama masa pandemi, kita ada fasilitas remote access. Jadi e-Library USA bisa diakses secara virtual, secara remotely, tidak harus datang ke America Spaces. Nah, bagaimana cara mengaksesnya? ini ada registration link to get individual access. Ini mungkin bisa Bapak Ibu bisa catat di sini. Hold on. Kalau mau langsung isi, boleh langsung isi. Nanti setelah presentasi akan saya tunjukkan penampakannya. Jadi daftar di sini, nama, alamat email, kemudian institusi. Nanti setelah selesai mendaftar, akan ada automatic email ke email yang Bapak Ibu berikan pada saat pendaftaran yang menginformasikan login details dari eLibrary USA. Nah, registrasi ini hanya berlaku untuk pemakaian individual, pengguna individual. Kenapa? Itu itu adalah perjanjian lisensi antara kantor kami di Washington DC dengan pihak vendor, bahwa akses ini adalah akses individual. Jadi tidak bisa dipakai kolektif, tidak bisa mendaftar untuk misalnya dipakai di library Unisma, for example, ya. Jadi misalnya di Unisma ada 1.000 orang yang butuh akses, 1.000 orang itu harus mendaftar sebagai individual user. Tidak bisa perpustakaan memfasilitasi satu login untuk 1.000 orang ini. Ya. Kemudian ini syarat dan ketentuan untuk akses eLibrary USA. Yang tadi yang pertama adalah individual access. Satu login, satu pengguna. Login tidak bisa digunakan secara kolektif. Kemudian sebagai end user, tidak ada biaya sama sekali untuk mengakses sumber-sumber yang ada di eLibrary USA. Jadi bisa print, bisa save, bisa email, artikel, abstrak, foto yang ada dalam koleksi eLibrary USA tanpa dipungut sepeser rupiah pun. Nah, kemudian ini nih yang penting buat kita orang Indonesia, copyright dan distribution of materials ya. Kadang-kadang kita di Indonesia suka mengabaikan dua hal ini ya, hak-hak copyright kan ya. Nah, dalam pemakaian eLibrary USA yang harus diikuti adalah copyright dari pemerintah Amerika Serikat. Nah, dalam hal copyright yang berlaku di Amerika Serikat. Jadi dalam hal ini nomor 1 ini adalah individual access. Nomor 2, artikelnya tidak bisa misalnya satu orang download, kemudian di print rame-rame. Jadi misalnya ada teman mahasiswa menemukan artikel yang satu menarik, dibagikan kepada teman-teman yang lain, tinggal fotokopi. Teman-teman yang lain itu tetap harus login ke eLibrary USA dan mencari artikelnya sendiri. Nah, ini tadi sekilas kita go through akses eLibrary USA. Ada sumber magazine, ada sumber berita dan magazine di press reader, kemudian ada sumber magazine khusus di Flipster. Nah, kalau di Flipster ini kebetulan memang ada beberapa terbitan yang tersedia dalam bahasa Indonesia. Ini saya pikir satu-satunya sumber di eLibrary USA yang ada bahannya, materinya dalam bahasa Indonesia. Kemudian ada juga sumber informasi, ada juga sumber untuk belajar Inggris. Jadi ini sumber multimedia, ada untuk pemula yang sedang belajar bahasa Inggris, kombinasi antara koleksi buku, recording, video untuk memfasilitasi orang meningkatkan English comprehension ya, terus English listening juga, English reading. Tapi untuk belajar pemula. Nah, kemudian ada koleksi streaming video, Kanopi. Ini ada sekitar 100 judul film dokumenter yang mengangkat topik-topik mengenai isu kontemporer dari masyarakat dan budaya Amerika Serikat. Nah, kategori yang kedua, ini yang akan kita bahas sebagian, adalah sumber informasi yang berhubungan dengan academic and research. Ya, ada 5 database yang masuk dalam kategori ini. Yang 3 teratas yang saya sharing di sini adalah khusus untuk pendidikan tinggi, yang 2 di bawah, berikutnya, yang GEL in konteks ini untuk middle school, pelajar sekolah menengah, untuk bantu mereka mengembangkan literasi digital mereka, literasi research mereka. Kemudian ada GEL in konteks, opposing viewpoints, jadi itu kurang lebih database yang menyajikan topik-topik juga yang kontemporer, global issue of interest, kemudian dibahas dari berbagai sudut pandang pro and cons. Jadi bahan-bahan dalam GEL in konteks, opposing view of points itu melatih orang untuk berpikir kritis, untuk critical thinking. Nah, saya balik lagi ke depan. Untuk yang academic research resources, ada 3 GEL 1.5, GSTOR, and ProQuest Dissertation and Thesis Global. Semua artikel yang ada dalam 3 database ini adalah peer reviewed. Ya. Masing-masing saling melengkapi, tidak ada yang sempurna memuat semua subjek, semua material, tapi saling melengkapi. Yang koleksi yang spesifik di sini misalnya ada ProQuest Dissertation and Thesis Global. Jadi dia hanya memuat bahan-bahan tesis, sedangkan kalau di 2 yang lainnya artikel ilmiah tapi tidak ada bahan tesis. Nah, nanti setelah presentasi ini saya akan buka database-nya, saya tunjukkan sedikit. Ini tadi yang middle school dan opposing viewpoints. Nah, ini presentasi ini hanya basic, jadi pengantar untuk pengenalan. Nanti setelah presentasi ini sekiranya ada yang mau lebih in-depth presentation, kita bisa bicarakan, kita bisa bikin sesi tersendiri ya, untuk mencakup hands-on training, bagaimana research efektif untuk masing-masing database. Untuk sementara, saya kasih dulu yang basic-basic, apa yang harus kita perhatikan ketika kita hendak menggunakan eLibrary USA. Yang pertama, kita harus paham dulu masing-masing kontennya seperti apa. Jadi ini akan berhubungan dengan kebutuhan informasi dari pengguna. Jadi kalau kita sudah tahu akan mencari bahan research, kita akan langsung pergi ke research akademik, tidak lagi bongkar pasang di Flipster atau misalnya di Canopy. Nah, kemudian sebagian besar bahan yang ada di eLibrary USA memang full text, tapi ada beberapa, sebagian kecil ya, sejumlah kecil saja, yang hanya berupa abstrak atau summary. Sebagian besar bisa di-download, tapi ada juga koleksi-koleksi khusus yang mungkin udah dari tahun-tahun yang lama, yang hanya tersedia fotokopi atau pengiriman dengan fotokopi. Tapi jarang banget, karena semuanya saya lihat sudah dikonversikan ke dalam bentuk digital. Terus kemudian kita juga harus belajar bagaimana menavigasi masing-masing database tersebut. Dan yang terpenting adalah search engine. Jadi di ILU tidak ada satu search engine yang bisa langsung mencari di 9 sumber informasi yang tersedia. Jadi untuk search engine di ILU kita harus masuk ke dalam masing-masing database. Lalu kita search di situ. Nah, ini kurang lebih basic research ya. Kalau kita mau mulai research, ada 2 kemungkinan. Kita tahu bahan yang ada, misalnya dari judul, dari pengarang, atau dari kata kunci. Ini pretty much straightforward research ya. Kita tahu judul, kita langsung masukkan judul. Entah judul lengkap atau judul sebagian. Autor, kita langsung masukkan ke box pengarang, search. Keyword juga kita bisa langsung masukkan ke keyword, search. Tapi ada juga kadang kita nggak tahu pengarangnya siapa atau judulnya siapa. Kalau dalam kondisi itu, yang akan kita lakukan biasanya akan memakai menu browsing, kemudian di database tertentu ada subject guide. Nah, kalau untuk koleksi kita yang punya subject guide itu adalah academic one file. Nah, yang ketiga adalah kita menggunakan metode searching Boolean logic, Boolean parameter dengan menggunakan kata and, or, and not. Ya. Ini kira-kira learn the basic searching. Sedikit dalam. Nah, ini masih berhubungan dengan strategi searching ya, apa yang harus kita kuasai ketika melakukan searching. Pertama kita menguasai Boolean logic ya. Jadi dengan menggunakan and itu untuk memperluas hasil and itu untuk mempersempit hasil pencarian kita. Misalnya ada diabetes and insulin. Jadi dia hanya mengambil materi yang berhubungan yang mengandung kata diabetes dan insulin. Nah, ini saya kasih contoh umum saja. Kemudian ada penggunaan kata or. Ini untuk memperluas hasil pencarian kita. Jadi kita mencari diabetes or insulin. Jadi kedua-duanya nanti bahan-bahan yang mengandung dua kata ini nanti akan muncul dalam pencarian kita. Kemudian ada parameter not, diabetes not insulin. Jadi nanti hasil pencarian kita hanya terbatas pada diabetes. Ini sebagai contoh saja. Nah, ini juga kita harus menguasai misalnya pemakaian quotation mark, tanda kutip dalam pencarian kita. Ini contohnya kalau kita punya kata Spice Girl ya. Kalau mungkin ada Bapak Ibu yang seangkatan sama saya, Spice Girl itu salah satu band perempuan dari Inggris. Nah, kalau kita mencari kata Spice Girl dalam tanda kutip, hasil yang keluar nanti adalah memang Spice Girl yang band dari Inggris. Tapi kalau tidak dalam tanda kutip, nanti akan keluar spice tersendiri, nanti akan keluar cengkeh, kayu manis, cumin yang berhubungan dengan spice rempah. Jadi dua kutipan itu untuk menandai bahwa dua atau lebih kata itu diperlakukan sebagai satu kata. Kemudian ada juga while character, tanda tanya, itu untuk memperluas hasil pencarian kita. Yang terakhir adalah tanda trunket, tanda bintang. Ini juga untuk memperluas hasil pencarian kita. Misalnya kita pakai kata farm, kita kasih tanda bintang di belakang. Nanti pencarian kita akan mencakup farm, farms, farmer, farming. Ya. Itu kira-kira dari saya. Sekarang saya mau, itu sekedar teorinya, pengantarnya. Sekarang saya mau tunjukkan database-nya sendiri. Oke, ini saya stop share dulu. Kemudian saya share lagi di sini. Oke. Nah, ini adalah penampakan database ketika saya sudah login. Database e-library USA. Ya. Yang bagian atas News and Magazine, bagian bawah di tengah-tengahnya kategori Academic and Research Resources, bagian berikutnya English Language, belajar bahasa Inggris, dan terakhir Streaming Video Resources. Ini saya buka, kita buka GEL Academic One File di sini. Salah satu yang unik dari nah, ini penampakan untuk GEL Academic One File. Ada sekitar 8.000 artikel jurnal yang dicakup dalam GEL Academic One File. Di bawah ini adalah subjek-subjek yang ada dalam GEL yang kita langgan. Ini tadi saya di sini kalau Bapak Ibu tahu judul, pengarang, atau kata kunci, bisa langsung masukkan di menu search yang bagian atas. Tapi kalau misalnya Bapak Ibu presisi search-nya mau lebih baik, lebih tajam, ini pakai advanced search. Advanced search ini yang tadi kita bisa menggunakan Boolean logic di sini, dimasukkan ke termnya, kemudian termnya mau ada di bagian mana, apakah keyword, apakah di entire dokumen, apakah di subjek atau di abstrak. Kemudian kalau Bapak Ibu mau gabungkan dengan menggunakan parameter and atau or atau misalnya not, ini di bagian sini, di bagian advanced search. Nah, kita bermain-main dengan pencarian dengan kata kunci dan dengan parameter Boolean logic. Nah, salah satu highlight yang ada dalam GEL Academic One File yang tidak ada dalam dua sumber academic research lainnya adalah subject guide. Ya. Jadi kalau subject guide itu dia menunjukkan hubungan antar subjek. Jadi katakanlah kita kasih contoh di sini, kita masukkan kata English. Dia akan langsung keluar dengan pilihan-pilihan controlled vocabulary, vocabulary yang sudah mereka pilihkan untuk semua subjek yang berhubungan dengan English. Ya. Di sini dari English second language sampai English artist ada semua di sini. Sorry. Kita pilih aja dulu English second language ya. Kita pilih di sini English second language search. Saya akan tunjukkan bagaimana dia menunjukkan hubungan hubungan antar subjek. Nah, di sini ada 9.260 sumber yang berhubungan dengan topik English sebagai second language. Nah, kita mau lihat English as second language itu ada lagi pembahasan sub-sub temanya. Jadi di bawah sini ada subdivision, kemudian subtema berdasarkan abjad dari A sampai Z. Ada case study, ada cases, ada properties, itu yang berhubungan dengan English language. Tapi kemudian kita bisa klik di sini untuk mencari term-term yang berhubungan dengan English as a second language. Ya. Di sini ada English second language dalam katakanlah dalam konteks English education. Ini term-term yang berhubungan. Kita bisa lihat lagi di bawahnya related subjeknya. Kemudian di sini dia tunjukkan education untuk subjek yang lebih besar, English literatur untuk related term untuk English subject. Jadi ini saya sebenarnya mau cari yang dia narrower term, jadi lebih spesifik. Jadi saya tidak menemukan contoh yang baik. Jadi kalau subject term itu dari satu subjek dia akan mengarahkan kita kepada term-term lain yang berhubungan. Entah itu untuk term, untuk subjek yang lebih besar, subjek yang di atasnya, atau subjek yang punya korelasi terhadap term itu, atau subjek yang lebih kecil. Jadi itu gunanya kita menggunakan subject guide. Dan itu salah satu kelebihan GEL Academic One File. Selain dia punya menu search yang kurang lebih sama dengan menu search yang ada di database lainnya. Ini untuk GEL Academic One File. Yang sumber kedua, kita lihat, kita pergi ke GStore. GStore ini cukup komprehensif ya, dari koleksinya ada dari sampai tahun 1.800 atau 1.700, dan salah satu koleksi yang tidak dimiliki oleh dua sumber yang lainnya adalah koleksi image. Jadi koleksi dalam bentuk gambar. Ini biasa. Terus kemudian dia juga punya menu advanced search, kurang lebih prinsipnya sama dengan menu search yang ada di database lainnya. Bisa juga browse berdasarkan subject, title, collection, publisher. Tapi ada tools yang menarik dari JSTOR, yaitu text analyzer. Jadi text analyzer ini membantu kita menemukan bahan, kasusnya seperti gini. Misalnya kita sedang menulis, ya. Terus kemudian di tengah-tengah proses menulis kita ingin mencari bahan yang lebih luas dari untuk support karya tulis kita. Yang bisa kita lakukan dengan sumber JSTOR adalah kita masukkan hasil tulisan kita ke dalam tools text analyzer ini. Nanti JSTOR akan menganalisa tulisan itu, kemudian dia akan kasih rekomendasi bahan-bahan yang ada di JSTOR yang sesuai dengan topik yang dimaksud. Atau bisa juga kita baca suatu artikel. Terus kemudian kasusnya sama, kita ingin lebih banyak mendapatkan bahan yang sesuai dengan artikel itu, kita hanya perlu masukkan file artikel itu ke dalam text analyzer, nanti JSTOR akan analisa dan akan datang dengan rekomendasi bahan-bahan yang memang membahas artikel yang dimaksud. Ini saya kasih contoh di sini. Saya punya proposal untuk project disability, difabel, people with disability. Jadi tadi masuk dari tools, text analyzer. Kemudian di sini ada box, bilang drag and drop a document or image here. Saya ambil dari salah satu proposal program saya. Ini tentang people with disability, inclusive, diversity, tolerance. Kita masukkan, sudah di-uploading, kemudian si JSTOR melakukan analisa teks, dia akan mengidentifikasikan topik tentang tulisan kita apa, lalu voila, keluar di sini bahan-bahan, materi, artikel, atau mungkin juga ada image yang menggambarkan subjek dari dokumen yang tadi saya masukkan ke dalam text analyzer. Ya. Di sebelah kirinya, kalau bisa dilihat, di sini dia menganalisa term-term apa yang paling banyak saya gunakan, disability, terus kemudian ada sign language, political debate, education program. Nah, dari sini dia generate artikel-artikel yang berhubungan dengan topik-topik yang menurut dia main subject dari tulisan yang tadi saya maksudkan. Itu salah satu keunikan dari JSTOR. Ya. Yang lain-lain, menu search, menu browsing itu kurang lebih sama dengan yang sumber lain. Kemudian yang terakhir dari 3 database tentang untuk academic research adalah ProQuest Dissertation and Thesis Global. Jadi ini adalah koleksi tesis, disertasi yang berasal dari sekitar 700 universitas di seluruh dunia. Ada sekitar 1,5 juta title, yang tertua itu dari tahun 1861. Dan ini jadi repository dari LOC, Library of Congress, khusus untuk koleksi tesis. Jadi sangat komprehensif, hampir semua bidang ilmu ada di sini. Pendekatan pencariannya juga bisa dari universitas, dari subjek, dari pengarang, terus dari lokasi geografi. Jadi pendekatannya bisa dari berbagai faset. Itu saja dulu. Memang sangat singkat dan banyak hal yang harus diabsorb. Karena ini introduction, saya hanya kasih garis besarnya saja. Sekiranya nanti Bapak Ibu ingin lebih sesi yang in-depth, ada terus kemudian sesi yang ada kemungkinan untuk melakukan uji coba research sendiri, itu nanti kita bisa usahakan, bisa reaching out ke kami, nanti kita diskusikan waktu yang tepat. Demikian presentasi dari saya. Terima kasih.
Terima kasih banyak. Thank you very much, Ibu Okti, yang sangat-sangat bermanfaat tadi. Very, even though it is introduction, but still practical. You show us how to search the information, bagaimana mencari informasi. Dan tentunya di sini we are here with not only faculty members, but also students and also deans and also rectors from Nahdlatul Ulama higher education institutions. And some question that is written in the YouTube chat section. Ada pertanyaan dari beberapa perguruan tinggi. Ibu Okti mentioned that the access is is it for COVID-19 pandemic only, the access for individual, or is it like for after the COVID-19, still the university can access the e-library USA? And if, for example, because we do not know yet, is there any other type of membership, like for institution? If there is such kind of a membership for the institution, how can we access it for the university? Or is it better to just share the link to the students to access individually? Itu pertanyaan dari beberapa perguruan tinggi yang masuk di kolom YouTube Bu Okti. And then we also got the question from Ibu Nur Jamila, Ibu Mila. Previously, she already registered to e-library USA from one of the workshops that she attended. But now she cannot use the account again. How can she reactivate the account again so that she can use the e-library? And then question from Pak Prayogi, how to access e-library. Ibu Okti, I think already mentioned we need to register through the link that has been provided by Ibu Okti. And it's already shared by Ibu Okti in our chat box. So all of us can access the link and register individually. And then a question for Pak Joshua Tokar that we have from audience in YouTube from Pak Ahmad Bastomi for Pak Joshua Tokar about how do we access can we access other resources like paid articles? Sometimes students get difficult in accessing some relevant articles, and sometimes it is paid articles. Maybe in addition to ProQuest and eLibrary or GStore, are there any other e-resources that student can access, Pak Joshua Tokar, especially in relation to English language teaching materials, for example, English language teaching books or other maybe resources from website that can support the writing or the research of English language teaching. And for those who are new with Mendeley, question also from Pak Tommy. Can we also what we call do the automatic search from the internet to automatically collect or download the materials into our library? So that's a question from Ahmad Bustomi. So I will give time first to Bu Okti, and then next will be responded by Pak Joshua Tokar.
Thank you for the question. They are all good questions. For the first one, whether eLibrary USA will be still available until after the pandemic is over, I have no definite answer for that. So it could be still available, it could be stopped, but at the moment, since it's available, please do use it. Take benefit from it. We do hope though that this remote access will be available even after the pandemic, but nobody knows at this point. So just take benefit, take advantage of what is available at the moment. And then for the registration, as already mentioned by the moderator, I type the link to the individual registration. If you in the past have registered and somehow couldn't access it currently, please do re-register again. So there is or if you forgot the login details, there is no issue to re-register. And for the question whether the access will be available for institutional usage, unfortunately, the agreement between a State Department and the vendor of eLibrary USA is only limited to individual access. So no service yet for the institutional or collective use. I hope I answer the question. Thank you.
Terima kasih Bu Okti, thank you very much Bu Okti. Jadi Bapak Ibu, pada masa pandemi ini ada akses yang diberikan oleh e-library dan mudah-mudahan kita semuanya yang berada di perguruan tinggi baik Nahdlatul Ulama maupun di non Nahdlatul Ulama bisa memanfaatkan ini sebaik-baiknya. Karena ini adalah resources yang berbayar tapi sudah dibayarkan oleh pemerintah Amerika. Dan aksesnya adalah diberikan kepada kita semuanya tanpa terbatas dengan persyaratan masing-masing individu, mahasiswa, dosen, maupun siapa saja bisa mengakses dengan syarat mendaftar terlebih dahulu melalui link yang sudah dicantumkan di kolom chat eLibrary USA Indonesia gitu. Dan untuk lembaga perguruan tinggi yang ingin menjadi mitra untuk berlangganan e-library, sementara ini masih belum ada informasi mengenai hal tersebut, sehingga sementara masih berlaku untuk masing-masing individu dan selama pandemi. Untuk setelah masa pandemi, kita juga masih belum tahu apakah nanti ini diperpanjang atau tidak. Oleh karena itu, momentum ini adalah momentum yang baik bagi kita semuanya, Bapak Ibu dosen, pimpinan perguruan tinggi untuk memanfaatkan resources yang sudah disampaikan oleh Bu Okti tadi. Ada referensi tesis, disertasi yang bisa mengakses dari hampir seluruh penjuru dunia yang bisa kita akses gratis dan sebenarnya berbayar, tetapi sudah dibayarkan secara gratis. Dan juga beberapa artikel-artikel yang peer-reviewed dan juga beberapa buku yang juga tersedia di e-library USA. Terima kasih Bu Okti atas jawabannya. Next question will be for Pak Joshua Tokar about sometimes students have got difficulty in finding paid articles, and what is the alternative? And then can we also use other resources to find books or websites that are relevant for English language teaching or research? And then for Mendeley management, can we also organize or download automatically from other sources into our Mendeley account? That's a question from Pak Ahmad Bustami from YouTube discussion. Time is yours, Pak Joshua Tokar.
Thanks, and thanks, Mrs. Sinaga, too. That was a great presentation, and it was especially interesting to learn about that text analysis feature on JSTOR. I wasn't personally aware of that. That's another great way to find a lot of good terms. Awesome. Okay, yeah, regarding the questions, first of all, talking about Mendeley, the last question you asked, as far as something being able to automatically be added, I'm not aware that of that feature. You may need to just enter it in. If it's not already in the system, you may need to enter it in, but many people have already been adding many of these sources, so you may find that your source is there. If it's not, you'll need to enter that information in. But once you've done it one time, you're done. You may need to fix some of the things, though. Depending on if you've entered in all the information correctly, you might not get the correct format for your citation, so you want to be careful of that. About regarding where to find other sources, obviously, yeah, many sources you may need to pay for them, or you may need some paid subscription or something like that to be able to access them. You know, there's a lot of different places to search, like eLibrary USA. Maybe you can find it there, but maybe it's not there. Maybe you can't find it anywhere for free. Okay, and that's our goal. We want things for free, right? So sometimes you may just need to pay, right? Sometimes you need to pay if it's a really valuable source, if you need that. But I would suggest before you pay for something, though, maybe contacting your university's library or other institutions you have connections with. Maybe they have access through some other databases or resources, or maybe they can get access for you. I would try that. Another thing you can do is contact the publisher. You can contact the author even of the source, and sometimes you might be able to get that source directly, maybe you know, maybe even for free, or maybe at a reduced price of some kind. So it's worth trying other ways to get that source, especially if it's expensive.
Thank you very much, Pak Jos. Jadi Bapak Ibu tadi sudah disampaikan ada banyak memang resources yang bisa kita akses, dan terkadang tidak semuanya diberikan secara free. Kalau tadi dari My America, pemerintah Amerika telah memberikan secara gratis beberapa akses, dan tentunya dari sama juga dari pemerintah Republik Indonesia dengan Indonesian Library, e-library Indonesia juga sama. Tetapi ada beberapa aspek juga yang terkadang tidak tercover pada e-resources tersebut yang memang kita diharapkan untuk memang berlangganan secara mandiri. Nah, tadi Pak Joshua Tokar menyampaikan kalau memang itu sangat urgent, sangat penting, dan memang kita butuhkan, kenapa tidak kita harus mensubscribe atau berlangganan pada jurnal, artikel atau buku yang memang benar-benar kita butuhkan. Bapak Ibu hadirin yang kami hormati, tadi juga sudah disampaikan. Ini ada pertanyaan lagi Bu Okti dari di YouTube juga. Kalau misalkan beberapa perguruan tinggi ingin lebih lanjut secara teknis, if the university would like to invite or ask for detailed, maybe a workshop on how to access or use specific service, for example, how to use GStore on, or how to use how to search in ProQuest like effectively. Can we also invite? Can the university invite My America Jakarta? And how do we access or contact My America to get the training or workshop on how specifically use My America or e-library at My America Jakarta?
Thank you for the question. I'm going to share my email address here, sinagao@state.gov. So untuk further training, specific training, in-depth training of specific database, we can arrange them in different time. Ideally memang in-person training, saya datang, terus kita bisa komunikasi langsung, ya, kita bisa praktek langsung. But since we are still in pandemic, so everything will be going in virtual format. Nah, untuk arrange the time, the day, and then to discuss what kind of focus from the training that you expect from us, you can email me at sinagao@state.gov. Kira-kira demikian. Tapi kira-kira demikian. Nanti boleh hubungi saya anytime, nanti akan kita komunikasi langsung. Semoga menjawab. Terima kasih.
Baik, terima kasih Bu Okti, because not only lecturers joining with us, I saw some heads of the library from several universities joining. The head of the library from University of Islam Malang joining us, and the other heads of the libraries from other universities. So hopefully the information can be useful for the universities so that the universities can disseminate the information on how to use e-resources effectively for the purpose of research for students, for faculty members at the university levels. We are so happy because we have a very informative presentation from our two keynote speakers, from Pak Joshua Tokar and then Ibu Okti, a very technical, very informative, and very important information, because we all know already that research publication in this digital era, we have to use e-resources. And sometimes students, faculty members, we know already that there are information available, but we do not know how to use it effectively. And we are so happy that our two keynote presentation, our two keynote presenters have shared a very important information for all of us. Before we close our international webinar, I would like to invite each speakers to give a concluding statement, maybe from Pak Joshua Tokar, and after that, Ibu Okti, concluding statement for our international webinar this afternoon.
Okay. Yeah, thank you so much again. I just want to thank each participant and all of the organizers for making this event possible. Thank you and for inviting me as well. It's been an honor to participate. Really a great time. I wish you all the best. Stay healthy. and stay safe where you are there and stay warm and dry. I understand it's rainy there. So, all right. Thank you again. Terima kasih.
Thank you. Terima
Goodbye.
kasih Pak Jos. Oke. Berikutnya Ibu Okti.
Oke, terima kasih sudah mengundang saya join dalam webinar ini. Saya mohon maaf kembali tidak bisa mengikuti seluruh acara, tapi satu kehormatan bagi saya. It's really an honor for me to participate in and share valuable resources provided by the US government. Please do use it to support your research and study. And if you have or if you need further training from me, do not hesitate to contact me. Semua sehat-sehat selalu dan tetap semangat. Sampai jumpa.
Oke, terima kasih Ibu Okti. Bapak Ibu, before we end, let's have a photo session together. Can you please kindly turn on the video so that the documentation team will take a group picture together, and please kindly turn on your video. There are so many deans from across Indonesia joining with us, and also director of the graduate school program, and then vice rector also joining, and some university library, head of the university libraries. So I will count the photo session. 1, 2, 3, smile. Okay. Okay, one more. 1, 2, 3, smile. Okay, thank you. And the universities not only coming from East Java, we have also Dr. Wazri Yusuf, Nur Yusuf, from Universitas Pendidikan Indonesia, Bandung. Thank you for joining with us. And Bapak Ibu, that's all the international webinar this afternoon hosted by University of Islam Malang in collaboration with Regional English Language Office, U.S. Embassy Jakarta, Indonesia, and the Forum of Nahdlatul Ulama Indonesia Rectors. That's all from me. Stay healthy, stay safe. Wallahul muwaffiq ila aqwamit thoriq. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and a very good afternoon to all of us. Let's give a round of applause to our very important information from our two keynote speakers. Thank you, Pak Fazri, Pak Dr. Fazri from UPI.